I have the pleasure today of introducing my brilliant colleague at the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute, Jennifer Bonilla. Jennifer helps support the hotel industry's career development and workforce segments. And coincidence, she happens to be a panelist today and a moderator of today's webinar. So Jennifer, you're going to start us off with the agenda today. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Dan. Good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening to everyone who is joining this webinar from all over the world. We do look forward to spending the next 60 minutes to share with you how the hospitality industry was impacted during pandemic and how the recovery is going in 2022 and beyond. And we'll also be sharing the labor market statistics, challenges, and career development resources and the best practices from our brilliant and distinguished hospitality industry expert. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's meet today's panelists. And we have Steve Hood, Senior Vice President of Research from STR, and he's also our partner in the Hotel Industry Analytic Certification Program. Natacha Garcia, Director of Learning Development from Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, Sarah Cozewith, and Vice President of Career Development from the American Hotel and the Lodging Association Foundation, Kelvin Banks, Vice President of Training Development from Pyramid Global, and Kelvin is also the Chairman of the AHLEI's Education and Certification Advisory Council. So thank you all for being here. We know how busy your schedules are. Really appreciate your time to share your insight and the best practices with our audience. So let's hear from Steve about the hotel industry impact and recovery in 2022 and beyond. Steve, take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Great to be with you all today. And I'd like to just bring you up to date, quick hotel industry update. And next slide. We'll start at sort of an overall world view just to show you, most regions of the world are getting back to normal. Now, there are a few laggards in there. China and Asia are a little slower to recover. Here we're looking at occupancy year-to-date July 22 and compared to year-to-date July 2019, just to show you the differences there. But you see North America 62 to 67 and other areas getting very close there. From an ADR point of view, next slide, way above in terms of recovery. Look, now these are these are numbers again comparing where we're at now compared to 2019 and most areas of the world dramatically above. No surprise, you're all familiar with that in the Americas but the same in Europe. Now a little slower again in China and Asia due to the slower recovery there, but most areas way above 2019 levels. Next slide. If we look, let's focus on the US now. If we look at demand, room nights sold, we're getting very close. If you look at this, since the pandemic, we're getting, a couple months were flat there. July was just a little negative when it comes to room nights sold. Next slide. But we're expecting, room demand to reach the 2019 levels. You see a long-term graph and showing the dips over time. Yeah, we're almost back. Next couple months we'll be back to 2019 levels from a demand point of view. Next slide. As far as occupancy is concerned, we're getting close, but we're not there yet. Negative single digits from an occupancy point of view, but a couple of these months have gotten real close, and that'll be something we'll be watching for the fall and expecting to get even closer during the fall. Next slide. Here's an overall look at occupancy, and this compares the last 21 and 22 to the prior 4 years. We left out 2020 for obvious reasons. You can see, 22 was getting very, very close back to those earlier years. Little dip in July. Some of that was calendar related in July, but coming in real close. And again, the next couple months will be important to watch as far as total recovery from an occupancy point of view. Next slide. For ADR, you can see now this is, looking at the last couple months, we've been really in positive territory since last summer for most months. And in the, in the last couple of months, we've actually been in, in the teens. And so looking real good from an ADR point of view. Next slide. This shows you, nominal versus real. And you can see the nominal has really been the one that's been in the positive territory. But even in the last 4 months, real ADR, if we factor out inflation, has been, in the positive territory or just slightly flat. Next slide. One of the big positive stories that we've seen, in this year has been the return of group demand. And you can see, strong increases really since the beginning of the year. Little dip in July, of course, that's a vacation month. And the next months will be very telling as far as group demand is concerned. But that's basically come back stronger than many people expected. Next slide. And really one of the remaining challenges has been that weekday performance, the corporate business demand, the transient business traveler during the week. That's been the only thing that's been slow to return. And of course, a lot of companies returning to office and cutting back on the work from home. So that'll be real interesting to watch into the fall to see how that impacts the weekday numbers. You can see weekends, no surprise, that's really led the recovery, and even the shoulder months, very good performance comparatively. So that's sort of a quick look at where we're at. Next slide. I just wanted to bring in some workforce data here because I know it relates to some of the speakers. And this compares May 22 to February 20 before COVID. And you can see the big challenge right now that we're facing is the drop. And if you focus in on hospitality sectors, restaurant and bar down 728,000, accommodation down close to 400,000. And those are jobs that have not been added back. Employment as a whole is almost back to prior 2019 levels, but we've seen a lot of shift. Look down at the bottom, transportation way up, and you can see that workforce shift from sector to sector, and that's of course one of the big challenges that the industry is facing right now. Next slide. That's sort of a quick update on the industry. If you'd like more information, drill down into a certain area, don't hesitate to drop me an email. I'll be glad to follow up with you. Just a quick update. One of the ways that STR tries to serve both academia and industry is through analytic-related certifications. Give you a little bit of information about that on this slide. Our most popular certification is the CHIA. We partnered with AHLEI back in 2012 to launch that. It's now been obtained by over 40,000 students, professors, and industry professionals around the world. And we organize custom workshop with many companies. We've done that with Wyndham time and time again, where we personalized a workshop and done it just for them. We have multiple formats in that first section. People can take that training online. We do virtual public workshops, personalized company workshops, and trainer sessions as well. More recently, we launched an advanced version of the CHIA, the CATA, and that's real exciting and really catching on very well as well. Next slide. This just gives you a quick outline of the CHIA, the foundations, math fundamentals, and then interpreting both property level data and industry data. And then the next slide, the CATA. And the value of the CATA is it introduces the four most popular types of hospitality and tourism research. Students learn how to conduct a market study, an event impact analysis, a feasibility study, and an economic analysis. And this training includes case scenarios, but very important templates that students can use in the future, so that when their boss asks them in the future, hey, can anybody do an event impact analysis? They raise their hand and say, hey, I've got it right here. slip the data in, and poof, they have an event impact analysis. They still have to interpret the data, but it's almost that quick. And final slide, these are just some things we have in progress, a CHIA recertification, a real estate analytics certification, a revenue management certification. We're starting with students just like we did with the CHIA. And another work in progress, very exciting, visualizing hotel data with Tableau and BI, taking people beyond Excel, higher level tools to be able to analyze data. Hopefully that's helpful. Drop me an email if I can follow up with any additional data, or if you have any questions. Obviously, we'll have Q&A coming up soon. But thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Steve, for comparing the historical data and providing a thorough update on our industry trend and the training resources from STR. These unrevealed data insights will definitely be helpful to empower our hotel owners and operators to make informed decisions and educate the next hospitality leaders. So next, Sarah from AHLEF will share the labor market statistics and the career development initiative from the foundation, and who we work very closely to support and collaborate on a number of initiatives to advance our industry. Sarah, it's all yours.
Jennifer, so happy to be here today, primarily to share a wealth of resources that the AHLEI Foundation has to offer. For those of you that are less familiar with the foundation, we sit neatly under the AHLEI umbrella as the charitable giving arm under AHLEI. And so if you'll advance to the next slide, please. Many people knew us best for many years for our robust scholarship program. For decades, we were well known for academic scholarships. And while we continue to promote and award scholarships, we have really grown to so much more over the past many years. And you can see here just a snapshot of some of the programs that we offer. I'll be focused mostly today on our workforce development programs, but you can see here that we also have our No Room for Trafficking program. I'll be touching on our diversity, equity, and inclusion, but all of these really are helping drive our mission of building careers, improving lives, and strengthening the lodging industry. So next slide, please. As Steve mentioned, while we are seeing some nice progress towards getting back to talent levels pre-pandemic, you'll all know that even at that time, there was a huge shortage of talent. So we're still sitting at over 1 million jobs open in the industry. And so if you'll advance to the next slide, I'd like to share with you some of the not only data, but resources that we're working on and initiatives to help support our members and the industry to grow back to an acceptable staffing level. We conducted a survey back in May of 2022. It was a front desk feedback survey. And here's some of the results that we received. So it's not a surprise that about 97% of those surveyed are experiencing staffing shortages. So that's par for the course. But what is alarming is that 50% are in a crisis mode, severe shortages. So as a result of that, and to combat that, we heard that 71% of those members and employers are increasing things like schedule flexibility to try to appeal to a wider, broader audience of talent. We were hearing a lot about the gig economy and how people were really enjoying the flexibility during the pandemic. And so our members and employers are really trying to mimic some of those opportunities to welcome people back to the industry. We're also seeing about 43% saying that they're boosting other kinds of benefits. So whether that's paid time off or tuition reimbursement, travel benefits, other things, again, that can really be a draw for people who may be new to the industry or people who would like to have returned to the industry. Next slide, please. Back earlier this year, we announced as part of our DE&I initiatives, a 5-year, $5 million commitment to driving diversity in the industry. So, when you're out at hotels or even in your own properties, you'll see that there's a lot of diversity at the entry level, but what we're not seeing is diversity at the higher levels and into executive levels. So this campaign, which is called A Place to Stay, is really dedicated to promoting the 200 plus career pathways that are found in the industry. So again, as a way to educate students and job seekers and people maybe transitioning from other industries about why hospitality is a great place to stay and work and advance. So as part of that campaign, really the linchpin of it is a website called thehotelindustry.com, where we are showcasing people's success stories in the industry, videos and testimonials of why people joined the industry, how they've advanced, and what they love about it. So really there's something there for everybody, and our goal really is to try to illustrate and educate on all of those career pathways. So we're starting with the core pathways that people are most interested in, and we'll continue to build those out. But ideally, we're tapping an audience well beyond what we have in the past, and really creating that diverse interest in the industry. So not only are we expanding to 14 markets from the 5 initial markets, but we're also adding a lot of content in Spanish. We're doing other advertisements. You can see a selection of samples here, again, in these markets to really bring people to the industry and seeking those opportunities. Next slide, please. So how else are we trying to draw people? Well, again, there's no one magic bullet in terms of how we're going to solve for this talent crisis. So one of our other key programs is something called Empowering Youth Program, and that really is aimed at youth who are between the ages of 16 and 24 who are not working and not in school. And we're partnering with a lot of different community-based organizations, both local to the markets that we started in, and national organizations you see here on the right, like Job Corps and Jobs for America's Graduates and Youth Build USA and the like, to really be able to build capacity and scale these programs and be able to, again, make a dent in the huge number of individuals we're trying to train and grow for careers in hospitality. So this map, the dots that you see here, we hope to just have this map peppered with these dots by this time next year as we continue to create new partnerships. But for those of you that are interested in working with us to tap the talent that are coming out of these programs, I invite you to connect with me. There's a lot of opportunity for employer engagement when it comes to bringing guest speakers into the classroom to help round out those students' experience, work-based learning opportunities, internships, and of course hiring. And so we would love to work with you on that program. Next slide, please. The other foundational program that we're very proud of is our apprenticeship program. We currently have 2 different pathways that are registered with the U.S. Department of Labor. The first one that we had approved was as lodging manager. So that's about an 8 to 10 month long program for people who are already in the industry and probably already in a managerial or supervisory role. And then we introduced just before the pandemic in February of 2020, our hotel cook program, which as you can imagine was paused due to the pandemic, but we relaunched it this year, and we're happy to report that we have about 8 employers that have already enrolled some of their employees in the hotel cook program, which is a 1-year long program. And that one's really aimed at the entry level or new hire candidate. And it takes them through everything they need to know to become a hotel cook. And in development, actually this month, we're just getting ready to submit to the Department of Labor our application for our maintenance and engineering pathway, which is what came out in surveys that we did among our members as to what was some of their biggest pain points in hiring. So while housekeeping was number 1, there's also a secondary need for maintenance and engineering as their top priorities, and that's what we've started with for our next pathway. And we'll continue to build out our suite of apprenticeship as the years go by. But the thing that's most important to know about apprenticeship is the fact that it's free. It's free to the employee, it's free to the employer. We provide all of the training and required maintenance of their apprenticeship program. And so we invite you to explore that if you have not already. Next slide, please. So how the programs work. So it's really a combination of on-the-job training. So they're working with mentors within the company to take them through a checklist of skills and knowledge that they need to have in order to complete the program. Then we layer in what we call related education training. And that's where we partner with the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute to source all the wonderful courses and credentials and opportunities for students to continue to advance their training and also their careers. So that RTI, or that related training and instruction, again, is at no cost to the company. And then finally, the third part, which is probably the most exciting part for the apprentices themselves, are the incentives that they get as being part of it. So one incentive is that there are mandatory wage increases that they earn as part of their program when they hit certain milestones. And then we at the American Hotel and Lodging Foundation offer lifelong access to scholarships. So if someone, becomes an apprentice as a hotel cook, and then they decide they want to go into another area, or they advance into supervision and they're eligible for other credentials, or they want to increase and deepen their learning, we will pay for that, for the longevity that they have in the industry. So that's really exciting for them. Next slide, please. Some of the other resources that we have available, again, sort of in the name of professional development, which is very important to us. Those scholarships that I mentioned for apprentices are also available for people working in the industry. So we have a robust professional development scholarship budget. I will say, sadly, that we never get to the end of it. We don't have enough people who are applying for those scholarships. So we invite you, if you are eligible, to do so. So you can receive, again, industry certifications to help you advance in your career, or help your employees advance in their careers on us. We're happy to support that. We've also been funding some associate's degrees at certain colleges through a grant that we had with the Hilton Foundation. So we're working our way towards that, but we also partner with 2- and 4-year academic institutions where we award over $1 million every year in academic scholarships. So again, we're all about building our future leaders, and this is one way, or 3 ways really, how we can do that. Next slide, please. Jennifer, is this you? This is not my slide. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This is a great, it's the foundation. I think it's really changing people's life, right? It's amazing to see all these initiatives that you guys are doing. It's impacting and changing people's life on a daily basis. Thank you so much for what you guys do. And it's amazing. For the last 65 years and soon be 70 years, the mission of the American Hotel Lodging Educational Institute, now under the National Restaurant Association, is to provide that hospitality organization and a school with quality resources to train and educate and certify professionals and to advance people's to be their best. And looking at the current workforce challenges, and I'm sure this is not unfamiliar, right? And it's not just the shortage in talents. And it's also about how we can together share the successful stories to attract more talent to our industry and to retain those ones that currently are with us, right? To provide not just a job, but also a career opportunity for them to stay with us, to grow with us, and to see a future for themselves, also for their family. So really, from a recent survey result, all these factors listed, transparency, compensation benefits, and a career advancement, are very important to our current workforce, no matter if a younger generation or older generation. And these are all the factors and the people are looking for. It's not always about money. It's really how they can get all the resources to help developing their skills and to continue to be successful at what they do, and also have that career path in front of them. So next slide, thank you. So AHLEI offers like a full learning suite and the targeted courses that can fuel the growth of industry professionals. Whether filling the knowledge gap or refreshing the skills, industry professionals are set up to take their career to the next level and to help the business grow successfully. As we can see from this certification growth chart, right? And we often start from line level, and we have the guest service as the foundation of our industry. And as we're learning more skills to master that skills from the line level, we bring our skill to the next level to become a leader, to become a supervisor, so we can showcase and nurturing the next generation and all your new employees to make them more successful, to make our business successful. And this chart often being utilized by a lot of companies recruiting and at the talent acquisition process to show that, hey, we want to invest in you. So join us, join our company. We have all these great resources, industry recognized certification, and to help not only for you to be successful where you are hiring at the current position, but also you can see how your career can take place from this place. So these are all the certification programs that we have, and it totally showcase what we support from the hotel segment. Next slide. And with all of these online training programs that we have available, and the National Restaurant Association is doing a great job and doing research on the compliance program, and our program meets all these compliance requirements. So really to alleviate some of the stress from the owner and operator's shoulders, so that you can more focus on your guests and your operation. Have a peace of mind that all the program will be meeting all the requirements for sexual harassment, food safety. So we have all these online programs can be flexible and also can be self-paced for your employee to go through on their own schedule. So really cultivating our hospitality leader for today's challenge and tomorrow's opportunity is why we're here, working very closely with industry experts to create these programs. We are not only from the hotel segment, but also on the restaurant side. And next slide, we will see similar to the career path to the hotel segment, we also have a career path for the restaurant employees. So they can learn the skills as a restaurant professional and moving to a supervisor role, and we'll have all the resources and a certification program to help them advance to the manager position. So we're hoping to be there along each step of your hospitality journey, really to continue bring success on the personal level and also on the business level. Thank you so much, Dan. All yours.
All right, thank you very much. And now it is time. We've got 30 minutes for our Q&A panel. I already see a handful of questions coming in through the chat. If you haven't already done so, use that Q&A box to ask your questions, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. We're going to start off with one of ours as we see the questions coming through, which is, to the panel, how are you using training to address skills gaps that you find when recruiting?
So thank you so much, Dan. I'll start here. Again, everyone, my name is Calvin Banks, and I work with Pyramid Global. And when we think about the skills gap, bringing in people that maybe they haven't been in hospitality before, one of the things that we've rolled out this year is a virtual train-the-trainer program. So not every last one of our properties has a training manager who can lead a train-the-trainer program. So what is that? It is training our current team members. So it may be a room attendant or a front desk agent, training them how to train new individuals. So this is not necessarily that is something new to our industry or other industries, but the way that we are doing it virtually, knowing that our folks don't have these resources at the property, has helped us. But then we've also looked differently at how we bring people, and I saw this from Yolanda as a question, which is how do we get qualified team members on the floor when we don't necessarily have enough time to bring those individuals through a full training process. And what I've encouraged our trainers to do is really think differently. Maybe we can't get folks through 100% of the training. Let's think about this room attendant. Maybe we can teach the room attendant in a day's time how to make beds, right? And then let that be that person's focus for the next week. And then the following week, maybe we teach them how to clean bathrooms and so on and so forth. Instead of having a team member that is 100% trained before we put them out on the floor, maybe there are some specific tasks that we can train those individuals on and have them focus on those tasks rather than spending the time in that moment to get that person 100% trained. Obviously, they're going to be 100% trained whenever they go through the full program, but really, you know, paying attention to the business, giving them those specific tasks and handling it from there.
And I'll jump in here as well. Hi, I'm Natacha Garcia, and I've had the pleasure of working with Wyndham for the last 23 years. And like everybody else in the industry, it's been some interesting, trying times the last few years. We know that over 35% of employees say that they don't get any kind of development in their hotels, or actually in any business. And so we've leveraged that. We've used training as a recruitment tool for sure. We, from the get-go, are talking about professional certification reimbursement and other things that we offer to be able to develop folks that come into our workforce. Additionally, we've expanded our onboarding, and on the corporate side I'm referring to now, we've expanded our onboarding journey to include leadership development training as well as a personal SWOT, because even in the corporate office, we realize that we've got folks that are coming in with those skills gaps, and even from some of the internal folks that are moving around and finding new opportunities, there's opportunity there to grow their skill set. So that SWOT is really great. On the hotel side, we've experienced the same thing, right? They're either there and they've been there and they're doing 8 jobs now, 8 different jobs, or they're new and they've never had spent a day in a hotel. So making sure that we have that very minute training opportunity, kind of like what Calvin was alluding to, has been essential for us. We still have our revenue management and sales courses that are getting a lot of attention right now, because we do have folks that, you know, are needing to upskill into those areas because they maybe didn't have experience in the past. But in addition to that, we've put together one-pagers that allow our managers to do short bursts of learning, abbreviated short little bits of information that's shared. It can be shared during a huddle, it can be shared during a team meeting, or it can be personal development that's assigned to the employee, just to be able to start filling those gaps on a short, you know, moment, as well as on the kind of more extended plan. And lastly, as part of our Wyndham Strong initiative that we launched this year, we looked to really amp up service training at our hotels. So we're actually in the middle right now of building a very robust set of offerings that take service to the next level, and that offer, again, those very, very short bursts, reminders of everybody of how to take care of their guests and how important it is that we are empathetic to our guests. And at the same time, we've offered additional resources to help our hiring managers, because they too are also tasked with finding these folks and being able to identify those gaps. So giving them the tools, giving them the knowledge, an onboarding guide that we created that's very robust, that has all kinds of tools that they don't have to go and look for themselves, that can help them help their workforce as they're bringing them into work.
One quick observation, as we were heading into COVID, we, you know, the middle of 2020, I was thinking, oh, industry training is going to dry up. I'm responsible for both academic training and industry training. And I figured, oh, industry training is going to dry up. But it was just the opposite. And I applaud companies like Wyndham. I remember they came to us summer of 2020 and said, hey, we want to launch a big training program for hundreds of our staff people. Companies that had the vision to realize, hey, this is how we keep people, this is how we bring them back, this is how we help them progress in their careers. And it was exactly the opposite. We were, you know, we saw big increases in 2020 and still into 21 and this year as well. So I applaud those companies with the vision to realize that it's, you know, that was critical.
All right, anything else from the panel? Sarah?
I was just going to add, you know, I mentioned our apprenticeship program, and what I didn't mention is that the way we develop our programs is using subject matter experts from industry to really identify the skills and knowledge that are critical for the apprentice. So when we talk about the skills gaps, you know, that's where we're going to develop our content, is really hearing directly from industry as to, you know, what those required and requisite skills are, so that we can make sure that we're accessing training content to train to those skills.
All right, I'm gonna turn off the slide share, and we're just gonna do work our way through some of these questions that are coming in. Really great questions already. You can keep asking them as we go. Do you believe there is a need for an associate's degree at the college level to prepare students for the hospitality field? Or is most of the training taking place in-house?
I buzzed in first, so I'm going. I think that that at the end of the day, any knowledge is good knowledge, and so definitely having that degree is a wonderful thing. I think all of us that kind of grew up in the industry know that you don't need it to get started, and you certainly don't need it to grow. And I think that's the beauty of our industry, right? But I think that being able to offer that, especially with a workforce now that's younger and that's more interested in development and growth and looking at the next best thing, it's a very great opportunity, whether it be to polish those skills or to give them that opportunity to develop and continue to grow and being challenged.
Now, I think I'll just add on to that, because obviously we have our academic scholarship program for 2- and 4-year universities. So we're very much supportive of those 2-year degrees. But to Natacha's point, it's not required, but what it can do is really fast track somebody to advancement. So where it might take somebody longer without a degree to progress to the same level, that degree certainly, brings somebody in potentially at a higher level. And what we're seeing is that more and more companies have management and training programs. So they're recruiting students from those hospitality degree programs, and they're entering right into those MIT programs, which again is just another way to fast track.
Next question is, what is your recommendation for dealing with urgent challenges of staffing levels? And the commentary here is, I'm not able to onboard qualified team members or maintain lasting team members, which impacts my scores and my productivity.
Do this right here. I'll jump in. I'll jump in here. It's such a great question, because we're all dealing with this, and it kind of goes back to where I started, which is really thinking differently about how do we onboard people, right? We want to make sure that excuse me, our associates go through orientation and obviously on-the-job training. But does on-the-job training have to be 5 consecutive days, or does it have to be 2 consecutive weeks, so on and so forth? Can it be today we're going to focus on this particular thing, and then for the next 2 or 3 days, that is your particular focus? And then in addition to that, going back to the benefits piece, thinking differently about how you can use, whether it's a manager or leader in training program that you have at your properties, whether it is additional training that you have, these certifications, how do you use this as a benefit for your teams? One of the things that we do with our leader in training program is we offer some of these EI certifications, whether it's the CHS, whether it is CHIA. We offer these to our associates as a benefit to be a part of the team. And in addition to that, in terms of keeping people, we had a general manager that was going to put in their 2 weeks notice. They received the job offer with another property, and we weren't able to meet that particular amount of money that they were going to have. We were able to come up some, but what we did is we offered this individual additional training. And one of the first things that we offered them was that CHIA program that Steve Hood talked about, right? And they were interested in that education because that actually made the difference for them, right? We were interested in their development. We showed that through an investment. We were able to give them a little bit more money, and it made the difference. So just really thinking differently about how we bring people in and how we can hold on to people would be what I encourage you to do.
And for us, I think it's had a lot to do with onboarding. We realize that industry-wide, they say that 1 in 3 don't make it past the onboarding process. But I'd argue that in the hotel side, it's probably even a lot more than that. So onboarding definitely is a challenge, whether it be on the hotel side or even the corporate side. On the corporate side, we did some great studying to understand exactly what was happening to our new hires. And what we realize is that it's hard enough to get them in the door, and they're not always qualified, got it. But in addition to that, how do we make them feel connected to the business? And so that's where we started to amp up this onboarding process. Our onboarding journey now is not 3 months, it's 6 months, and it's meant to be an experience, right? Because we feel like if we can connect with them from the moment they get onto that site to even learn about us, and we can start giving them the feelings and we can start giving them the connection, then all of a sudden we're going to have these folks having a little bit more investment in the relationship, and hopefully they'll want to stay. On the hotel side, we're trying to do something similar. We're extracting those pieces, those nuggets, and putting them together in that onboarding guide that I've referred to, because we also understand that some of our hotel managers don't have the luxury of time to help develop those folks. So, how do we give them, a nugget here or a nugget there that can help those individuals while they're onboarding them and help them to grow slowly? But we have to do something, because they, if they're lucky enough to even get an interview that turns into a hire, how do we keep those folks? And just having them walk through the door and have an underwhelming first day is not going to really cut it. So we are giving them some tools to help in their onboarding process as well. And now more than ever, we're focusing on leadership development, because again, I keep going back to the fact that I think if we give somebody a bigger picture, I may start out as a housekeeper, but if my aspirations are to be a supervisor or something beyond, then that might hook me, and I'll persevere through those those first jobs just to get to that next one. And so we've used the career pathing site the AHLEI has that's really awesome. And we've used some internally homegrown tools to help folks start to see how they can start to go from where they are today going forward. We do trainings with Emergenetics and with some of the other folks that help with communication skills and some of the basic skills that they're all going to need to be successful in anything that they do. And we find that getting that out there quickly helps to get a little bit more engagement. Hopefully it keeps them around.
I'm really glad that we went down that road with the answers, especially addressing pay and how we can overcome that, because there have been just a lot of questions about how can we navigate when warehouse jobs are paying more in other industries. So there's some great options for people in there. Here's kind of a personal question. Someone says they got an AHLEI certificate from a community college. They just graduated with hospitality management, and they're curious, what other certificates would you all recommend for them to better themselves and give themselves a chance in their career?
This is definitely not common, since we support all the high school market and also the college level students with our training resources, textbooks. And oftentimes students want to graduate with the industry recognized credential. So like when we're just went through the slide, and as all the line level program that you see, all the certification program, you can go ahead and get all those training and validate with taking the exam, get your certification. For all the line level program, there's no pre-quizzes, so you can get in and take the training and finding the gaps, and then earn your credential. All line level certification are available for you right there.
Curious if there are any other suggestions on things that you look for specifically as you're hiring people or promoting people?
I think that any kind of certification can be useful, but I feel like again, having some kind of specialization. We've seen a lot of folks even within our organization start to upskill using CRME. And so again, revenue management, sales, leadership, anything that's going to guide you in that direction is a good thing. I think to Jennifer's point, starting with the supervisory ones is probably a great way to get your foot in the door. I feel like the supervisor honor CHS and the CHA when you do have the credentials is a very nice thing to have because it's industry recognized, but it also exposes you to areas that maybe you haven't done. And speaking for myself, I had a lot of hotel experience, but I had very little financial management experience, and it was CHA that forced me to kind of amp that up. So I feel like I try to give that benefit of the doubt to folks when I'm looking for prospects, and I think our hotels do too.
We created the certification in hotel industry analytics. We didn't think of that. The professors in the universities that we were trying to serve thought of it, and they came to us and said, hey, we need a certification that focuses on analytics so that our students learn how to analyze hotel data and make strategic decisions based upon that. And that was really the impetus of that. And to think now that 40,000 people have obtained that still blows me away. I couldn't, never would have guessed that. It is mandatory in many universities, from schools like Cornell to community colleges that we work with as well. And it is mandatory at many companies for specific job descriptions. So one interesting aspect is it's used frequently at in master's programs. Like week 1 of master's program is the CHIA because it's a crash course for somebody who came out of who graduated with a communications degree to learn the lingo and the the players and the categorizations and the terminology and as far as the hotel industry is concerned. So never would have guessed people would be utilizing it the way they do.
We have a question here around if you have any advice for restaurants or food and beverage training specifically. They said that for housekeeping, they've seen that focusing on one task per week has been successful. With food and beverage or restaurants, are there any kind of tips or guidance you could provide for that kind of scale?
I'll go ahead and jump in here. It's the hard thing to say because it's what we're talking about, which is time. I was actually at one of our properties 4 weeks ago, and what you just talked about was a big question, and it's really time. The time for people, which we don't have, right? It's the time for people to be with their trainer. Because it is a little bit different, right? It is a little bit different when I'm face to face with the guest and they're right there. So how do we accelerate that person? It's time, and it's the ability to practice. And that was the biggest thing that we talked about at this particular property, is ensuring that people have the time to practice. And one of the things that we focused in on is we don't practice with the guest, right? So making sure that we create these scenarios in the time that is allotted, and maybe we need to look differently at the amount of hours in a shift or whatever, so that we can get through more things. But I don't want to say unfortunately, but the focus here is really time, and time to practice with individuals. And again, I know a lot of these things that we're saying are things that we know, but it's things that we need to make sure that we're doing. And I know a lot of you are out there doing some of those things. There was a go back, Dan, if it's okay. I'm just looking at Yolanda's response. She says that she is spending the time, right? We have properties that are spending the time. They are diligent. We are training people the way that they need to be trained. And then for whatever reason, those trained individuals end up leaving. And where I would ask again for us to focus on is, how are we engaged with that associate, right? What are our touch points? Are we connecting with them at 2 weeks, at a month, at 60 days, at 90 days? I remember one of the properties that I was boots on the ground at, And that was one of the things that we held, you know, our trainers, we had trainers at this particular property, we held them accountable to. You know, they had a 14, a 60, or excuse me, a 14, a 30, a 60, and a 90-day check-in. And we believed in that because we knew in doing that, we would be able to retain folks. So it's really engagement from leadership, supervisors, trainers, making sure that we stay connected with those individuals, and we're not really just, you know, kind of turning them loose to the wolves, I guess.
I have to comment on Calvin's comment there, but I will come back to your initial question there, Dan. I think that it's really about the experience, right? We were doing training at a property, and we were saying that the same way that the guest experience has been so important for so long, it's now about the employee experience, right? And how are they being made to feel? Are they being engaged? Do they feel taken care of? Do they feel like they belong there and, you know, they're getting a good value? All of those things are also applicable to every single one of our line staff and every single one of our team members. So it's kind of a different way of looking at it, but it's definitely important. Thanks for that reminder, Calvin. As far as the question with food and beverage is concerned, I don't necessarily have much more to add than what Calvin said, but I would just comment that I think, you know, online learning is still a powerful tool, and I hate to always go back to that. I think the challenge that we have as an L&D team is now, you know, obviously 15, 20-minute, 30-minute videos have not been useful for a long time, but now it's critical, right? You know, it's the videos that we have that are 1 and 2 minutes long, or a burst of knowledge or a burst of information that we can hit them with, that then they can practice or take back and do, you know, as they're doing on the job training and learning. I think that's probably the best tool that we have for any of these functions that require the physical, you know, learning of steps and processes like housekeeping, like food and beverage, even maintenance and front desk. The burst of knowledge, and then getting them to be able to practice it with others.
Natacha, you made me think of I was at the recent ICRE conference in DC in August, and Joe Pine was there. Joe, if you read his book, he literally wrote the book on customer experience, the experience economy. It's called, great read, but it's focused on customer experience. But he came to the conference to share on employee experience and how companies are, you know, working so hard to increase the experience of their employees. So, you know, top of mind. If you'd like to see any of the stuff he's done, or they've done some great research, and drop me an email, and I'll be glad to, you know, get you in touch with him. Great speaker as well.
This has been really wonderful. We're getting close to the end of our 60 minutes, so I'd love to go around the panel and just take about a minute, and if there's something that wasn't addressed earlier in the presentation you'd like to address, or if you just have any kind of closing thoughts, final thoughts. Natacha, I'd like to start with you, and then we'll just go around the circle.
Thank you, Dan. I think, you know, times have been tough, but I'm an optimist by nature, but I also think that the industry is starting to show that there is recovery and there is hope. And you know, whenever I talk to the hotels and I realize what they've all been through, because obviously it's the frontline employees that have been through the toughest times, and those managers, I always try to instill hope to them, because it is getting better. There are more resources. There is a better understanding. And while training, we wish we had been there at the very beginning to support everything and kind of knew what was happening or what was coming. We're definitely here along with our operations teams to try to help our hotels to be more successful. So hang in there and be hopeful. And we are, and we hope that in about 6 months, this won't even be a topic anymore.
Sarah.
Yeah, I guess, you know, my summary would just be that, you know, recruiting and retention are going to be ongoing issues, at least for the next couple of years. And we're sort of wrapping our minds around that. And while we continue to try to create new initiatives and source new pools of talent to attract people to the industry, we can't forget to retain the people that are currently working. And so I guess I would just impress upon that is, what programs are companies offering, what benefits, what extra things can be made available to make sure that we're retaining the talent that we have and want to keep. Things like mentoring, Calvin touched on some of the onboarding, how are we making sure that people have a good experience when they're being hired and advancing. And so things like mentoring programs, and again, I'll throw an apprenticeship as another example of something that companies can do to show that they're investing in their staff.
Thank you. Steve, what do you got for us?
I think one of the one of the side benefits, COVID has been tough for all of us, but I think one of the bright spots in the midst of it all is just where we're at right now, is the focus on the employee. And it's top of mind. You go to these industry conferences, the very first topic, the hot topic of that conference is staffing. And how do we get them in the door? How do we keep them around? How do we make it a career, not just stopping off for a couple months? And I know AHLEI Chip is working really hard on the image of a hospitality career. These deans and department heads, we literally work with 1,000 universities all over the world, top of mind there. And how do we get mom and dad convinced that when they bring their son or daughter to a university or they're considering a hospitality major, that this means a lifelong career. So that has definitely been one of the bright spots in the midst of all of this.
Calvin? Looks like you might be frozen, possibly. So we're gonna hop over to Jennifer.
I just want to say, thank you all for choosing the hospitality industry and to continue to move our industry forward, right? We're here to support and provide resources along each step of your career, and really is honored that we are able to work both sides, academia and the industry, and to be the bridge to connect everybody together. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And, we look forward to continue to serve our industry, serving you to make the whole industry successful. Thank you.
Looks like Calvin may have had some connection issues. So I just want to remind everyone that the recording of this webinar will be emailed to you so you can review and share. And also, we saw a lot of questions come through that we didn't get a chance to answer, and a lot of personal and specific addressed questions to some of the panelists. So fear not, those questions will be shared with the panel, and then they can reach out to you to address any kind of personal questions or specific things that you wanted to address. So thank you again to a wonderful discussion from everyone on our panel and to everyone who attended. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.